TV show Peaky Blinders, Seasons 3 and 4. The show begins with Thomas, Shelby, and Grace getting married. Thomas's family and gang, the Peaky Blinders, as well as Grace's family, cavalrymen from the British Army, have been invited. During the wedding, Kaladin, a Russian refugee, makes contact with Thomas as part of secret dealings with exiled Russian aristocracy. He has been contracted to supply them with tanks to mount a revolution in Soviet Georgia and overthrow the communist government. Unfortunately, Kaladin gives the wrong codename and is marked as a spy to be killed. After collecting the money for the job from Russian Grand Duchess Tatiana, Thomas tasks Arthur, his older brother, to kill Kaladin. However, after marrying Linda, a devout Christian, Arthur has found God and is reluctant to do it. Thomas tells him that the Shelby family will hang for their crimes if they don't kill Kaladin. After a scuffle, Arthur kills him and burns his body. Next morning, Thomas meets with Father Hughes and informs him that the tanks are in good condition. He is a member of Section D, a secret far-right organization, and is working for the Russian aristocrats. Hughes sends Thomas to meet Grand Duke Leon, Tatiana's uncle, who gives him a sapphire as reward for killing Kaladin. Meanwhile, Vicente Changretta, an Italian gang leader, confronts Arthur and John, Thomas's brothers, for burning down his son's restaurant. John threatens Vicente and later beats up his son. At a family meeting, Thomas sides with John and orders them to burn down 2 of their pubs as show of force. Arthur and Polly, Thomas's aunt, disagree with his decision. Grace and Thomas attend a dinner event for the Shelby Charity Foundation. Unexpectedly, a Changretta assassin, disguised as a waiter, pulls out a gun and fires at Thomas. He misses and kills Grace instead. Thomas is devastated. Following Grace's funeral, Thomas orders Arthur and John to bring Vicente back alive and kill his wife and son. They kill his son but allow his wife to escape to New York because she was their teacher in school. Arthur and John capture Vincent alive, who Thomas threatens to torture. As an act of mercy, Arthur kills him. With help from Ada, Thomas's sister and an ex-Communist Party member, Thomas finds out that Hughes has been leaking details of their plan to the Soviets. In return, he rewards her with a job offer, head of the Boston office in the United States, dealing only with legitimate business. After some consideration, Ada accepts the job offer. Later, Thomas joins a dinner hosted by Grand Duchess Isabella, Tatiana's aunt, and updates her on the plan to steal tanks from a train. As he is leaving, Thomas alerts Tatiana that Hughes is a Soviet informant and offers to kill him for free. Sometime later, Thomas shares the plan with the Peaky Blinders. They will be paid in jewels, but Thomas believes the Russians will betray him and plans to break into their treasury. Thomas returns home to find Tatiana waiting for him. They have sex, and he deduces the jewels are kept in a strong room beneath the house. Meanwhile, Linda tells Arthur she is pregnant and wants him to leave the business, which he agrees to after one last job with the Russians. Linda demands a bigger share so that they can start a new life in California. Thomas reluctantly agrees. Polly goes to church while drunk and reveals Thomas's plan to kill Hughes to the priest, who in turn alerts Hughes. Thomas's assassination attempt fails, and he is beaten half to death by his henchmen. Hughes threatens to kill his son Charles, forcing Thomas to apologize in front of the Russians for wrongfully accusing him. Afterwards, he hobbles to a meeting with members of the Soviet embassy, and reveals that Hughes is playing both sides. He intends to use the stealing of the tanks to provoke a violent act on British soil, forcing the government to sever all ties with Russia. After the meeting, Thomas collapses from his injuries. 3 months later, Thomas has recovered, and the jewel heist is drawing near. Thomas enlists Alfie, a Jewish gang leader, to appraise the jewels to make sure they are real and hires his comrades from the war to tunnel underneath their mansion. He also makes a deal with the Soviets, removing all firing pins from the tanks, rendering them useless, and negating the need to blow up the train. Unfortunately, Hughes catches wind of Thomas's betrayal and kidnaps his son. He demands that Thomas blow up the train himself in exchange for Charles's safe return. Thomas discovers that it was Alfie who betrayed him and confronts him. Michael, Polly's son, dissuades Thomas from killing Alfie as it will be bad for business. Later, Michael reveals to Thomas that he was abused by Hughes as a child and wants revenge. Thomas sends Michael to rescue his son and kill Hughes. At the same time, Arthur and John set off to bomb the train in case Michael fails. He successfully kills Hughes and saves Charles. Unfortunately, word does not reach Arthur in time, and he blows up the train anyway. Meanwhile, Thomas finishes digging the tunnel, breaks into the Russians' treasury, and steals all their jewels. He meets with Tatiana, who has been in on the jewel heist the entire time and buys the jewels from Thomas. He returns home and shares the spoils from the heist with the rest of the gang. However, after the meeting, Thomas announces that warrants have been issued for the arrest of Arthur, John, Michael, and Polly, but assures them a plan is in place to get them out of jail. Chaos ensues as the police arrive and take them away in handcuffs.